thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and let's recap and review Real Housewives of New Jersey. This is season 13, episode 1. So let's get to it. All right, y'all. So we're going to get a little spicy real quick, and then we're going to actually have a conversation and talk about this review. So two things I want to talk about: these text messages that are going around that are supposed to be an exchange between Melissa and Teresa. Then there's one where Louis talking to the Gorgas. I'm not about to go through all of them, but there's this page called All About the Truth that you guys can check out, and I'll put their information below. And they also have a website so you can read through the text message thread. I just wanted to speak on it real quick. The first one I saw was a text message thread between Melissa and Teresa, pretty much I guess I would say in a way exposing Melissa, saying that she lied about saying that Teresa never messaged her back after the reunion. And I didn't believe the text message thread because, there's apps where people can do that. And this isn't a page, no offense to them, that I've ever heard of. Like, it's not like a Peach Report, because that one is very much like people go to that one all the time for Atlanta and now sometimes Potomac tea, and it's normally right. So I was like, I've never heard this page. And I was like, well, maybe this is New Jersey's page. But I digress. But I didn't believe it until Melissa came out and pretty much confirmed it. So Melissa put this on her Insta story, and she said this: "Guys, I see you all are curious about the text messages. Someone is definitely spiraling and needs to prove herself working overtime. But this all proves my point even more. She did not reply to the text message I sent after we filmed the reunion. Crickets. It wasn't until 3 weeks later and after the reunion aired, she was getting all the backlash about how poorly she treated her brother and I. Then she felt the need to reach out to clean it up. Her reaching out at the same time when we were about to start filming, finally wanting to discuss our relationship and how she can fix it, it was fake. That was inauthentic, and she was self-serving. We want off the roller coaster, point blank. Can't say much more now, but if you continue to watch this season, it will make much more sense. Love you guys. Thanks for watching. #RHONJ. Now, if you look at the text message, which I'll show the screenshots, Melissa reached out to Teresa on March the 31st. Teresa responded April the 17th. And then if you actually go to the page and go through all the screenshots of this post that they have, they continued to talk until June the 2nd. They started filming the season of New Jersey May the 16th. So they talked they've talked all the way up until June. And so I didn't think they were real until Melissa comes out and she confirms it. Now, I feel two ways of this. One, in a way, it kind of proves Melissa's point that, she never acknowledged my first text message. But then second, it kind of doesn't, because it's like you pretty much lied. You said y'all haven't been in contact on the episode, or y'all haven't been in communication. But yet this text message shows, and you proved it, that y'all were talking up until now. But now all of a sudden you're trying to move the goalpost by saying, well, you see, guys, she didn't respond to the text message about me saying we should move forward. And I'm like, well, if she didn't respond to it and that was something that was really important to you, then you should have paid her dust the same way she paid you dust for 3 weeks. You didn't have to engage. So it does lend to the narrative that both of y'all like to be on this roller coaster of toxicity and stupidity. But it doesn't really support Melissa, in my opinion, because you did lie. You said y'all hadn't had communication, and the text message thread shows you had a communication. And legit, if you did not want to continue this, if you did not want to have that conversation with her on April the 17th, then you should have not acknowledged her texting you on April the 17th. Or you should have reached out back to her and say, hey, are you ever going to respond to what I said to you? Are we moving forward or not? And then the onus would have been on Teresa. Then there's also on this page, they released a text message thread between Louis and the Gorgas where he was inviting them to Tulum for Teresa's 50th birthday. But I don't know if this one is real. We don't have anyone coming out to confirm it. But a lot of people don't believe it because they felt like Joe was too nice in his response to Louis, because we all know that man is a Neanderthal. and he's a child at times. So people were just kind of like, I don't know if these are real. They might not be real because we don't have anyone to confirm it. So you can check all that information out on their page, and I'll post their information below again so you can look it up for yourself. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before we actually get into the review is Teresa pretty much like she cleared Melissa. I mean, cleared her. So Teresa has a podcast called Namaste, Bitchs. And on that, they were talking about the situation or this that's going on between the Gorgas and Teresa. And she said this. Teresa said, I gave birth on the show. I went to prison on the show. I got divorced on the show. I got married on the show. I buried my parents on the show. That is what I have done. And her story is that I didn't return a text message. That is her storyline. We are not the same. Never have, never will be. Y'all, she cleared her. I don't care what none of y'all say. Even if you hate Teresa, and I'm not the biggest fan of Teresa, but when I tell you that's how you know a read hits is when it's true. This is unequivocally true when it comes to Teresa. And I said this on Twitter. Teresa is the only housewife I normally give a pass when they're just like, I don't want to show this part of my life, because she has given so much. Like she said, she gave birth, she went to prison, she got married on this show, she got a divorce, she buried both of her parents on this show. So it's like, if she don't want to show certain things, I give it to her. But Melissa has given us nothing but other than feuding with this lady. But yeah, y'all, let's get into this review. She ate her. All right, y'all, bear with me. I've been trying for the longest to do this video. I've been getting text messages and calls back to back right now. So let's hope don't nobody call me next. So the episode opens up and we're, in New Jersey. They're giving us B-reel footage of like everyone with their kids and just having a good time. We then settle at Dolores' house. Looked like a zoo and an animal shelter. All these animals just running around. Then Frank pops up and he doesn't knock. And Dolores is like, you're going to have to start knocking. We find out that Frank moved out and moved in with David. And that Dolores is pretty much packing up a little bit of her stuff to move at Polly's house. Now, if you don't know, Polly is Dolores' new boo that we found out about during season 12's reunion. So she really likes him. She feels like taken aback by him. Like, he's very different from what she's dated before. Honestly, the boy looked like a younger version of Frank and less red. Frank always looked like a juiced up Red Hulk. Just, I thought Mia did. Mia looked like the Red Hulk when she mad. But Frank looked like the Red Hulk. That man is always red, just always. But he sits down, he brings her food, and they get to chopping it up. And pretty much Frank's whole thing is like, I moved out the house so that Polly would feel more comfortable, because he didn't want it to be awkward. But you about to leave, so I could have stayed if you was going to move in with him. And Dolores was like, no, stay where you at. And what it seems to be is that Polly is not really gelling with Frank, and it's like bothering Frank because Frank wants to be able to have, his family, like the kids, Dolores, him, and they all be good. But it's not really working for them. And we find out that Polly is like a very traditional guy where he's like, this my girl, this my woman, like, what you doing here, Frank? Your kids is grown. Your kids are in their 20s. You don't need to be around. I don't need to really form a relationship with you. And I feel two ways about that. One, I can understand Polly, him being like, I'm not okay with this situation. But it's like you came into this situation knowing that this is the relationship that they have. But I can understand him being like, yeah, I'm not cool with this. And telling Frank like, yeah, I'm going to need you to step back because this is between me and you. The other part of me is like, I think it's kind of messed up because like, this has been the dynamic between Dolores and Frank for this long that it's kind of like, well, why are you switching? Like, I'm looking at Dolores like, why are you switching up on him now that you got this man? You didn't do it with David, but you're doing it with Polly. And I feel like it's her right to do it, but I also feel like it's kind of messed up to Frank. Now, we know Frank was a menace to society and a horrible person to Dolores, but they were some way able to figure it out for the better of their relationship, and this is what we got. But I do think Dolores is allowed to create boundaries in order to move forward. I just kind of feel like it's kind of messed up, but I understand it. Because it's kind of giving the vibes like, okay, you might not know, but if you have a friend in your friend group that once she get a boyfriend, you don't never see her, and it's not until they break up that all of a sudden she want to be back in the clique, and it's like, girl, we're not just here for you to cry to when the man break your heart or when he pushes you, like shafts your feelings. And this is what the vibe is kind of giving me with Frank and Dolores, but do what you do. We then have Frank asking Dolores about Jennifer. Like, he was like, are you and Jennifer gonna be cool? And he's like, no, Dolores is like, don't ask me about her, because she feels some type of way because she's been hearing that Jennifer's been going around telling people that Dolores was a bad friend to her, and Dolores doesn't feel like she was a bad friend. She just feels like Jennifer doesn't know what a good friend is. We then flash over to Jennifer, and she at the house sitting on the couch with her children with a boot on her foot because she was a lush and broke her toe. She trying to say she tripped over them pants, but girl, tripping over pants don't break your toe like that unless you're drunk. And her mom did like a Turkish ritual, to ward off the bad spirits, because Jennifer was feeling like maybe the evil eye was on her. But I was with her older daughter who was like, girl, you just clumsy. I said, yes, sis, you're just clumsy, and it's worse when you're drunk. We then see Frank walking, not Frank, Paul, not Polly, good Lord, Bill, her husband Bill walks in, and they go upstairs and they talk, and Bill asks us the same question, like, are you and Dolores gonna get back on the good foot? And she's like, no. She's like, no. She was just like, I tried to be open with that lady, and she basically called me and see you next Tuesday and told me she didn't want to deal with me. So she's just like, I'm good on her. And the fact that I'm cool with Melissa says a lot about where our relationship is, and I'm fine with it. We then hop over to Melissa, and we see Melissa, Joe, and the kids. And it's crazy how much we've seen her kids grow. And they, her kids are like really turning into young adults. That's just wild to me. But their houses, I guess they're almost done renovating the home. The outside of their house is ugly. It is so ugly to me. The inside is actually really nice, but the outside, do something with it, fix it. Well, this is when the whole text message situation comes into play. Melissa is having an 80s themed party, like at the roller rink, the local skating ring, and she's inviting everybody. And Joe is like, who are you inviting? And Melissa's like, I'm inviting everybody. I don't want anyone to feel left out. Then Joe was like, but you're left out. And I'm like, Joe, I'm starting to peep things with you, bro. And we end up finding out that Melissa sent Teresa a text message on the 31st of March, but Teresa never responded from what they're saying in the episode. And Melissa felt some type of way because as the episode continues, they said Teresa really didn't reach out until May the 4th. Pretty much asking, and we find out Louis was the one that asked them to come to Tulum with them for Teresa's surprise 50th birthday trip, and they declined and said no. Now, what's annoying me with this is it did not seem that Melissa really had an issue until Joe was like, but you're always left out. I feel like Joe stirs the pot between Melissa and Teresa, because when Joe is not in the mix, Teresa and Melissa are pretty much like, they're decently cordial. Like, it's on the lower side of cordial, but it's decent. Because on Ultimate Girls Trip, they weren't that bad. They had like maybe one moment, and then they were able to reroute and get back on a good foot. And I feel like when Joe's not there and not like in Melissa's ear, then it's a different kind of vibe. And I'm not saying all of this is Joe's fault. Honestly, it's everyone who's involved's fault. And they always are trying to shift blame when all of them can take a piece of this pie, because they all feed into it. And I was just like, this whole text message thing is stupid, because either way, you got invited to the birthday. That seems to be like Teresa's olive branch towards y'all. And then I guess your olive branch is like inviting her to the 80s thing. But it could have happened. You could have got a free trip to Mexico, but you didn't want to go. Because then they were complaining about the post that she made about like all my special people being here. Well, you would have been one of the special people, but y'all opted out. So that's on you, bro. That's on you. So then we have a scene with Teresa and Louis pretty much getting ready for her 50th, where they invited all of Louis' family. So we see his son is there, his two parents. We find out that his mom is a therapist, and we meet Teresa's sisters, or her new sisters, her sisters-in-law, and the girls are there. They sit down, the food look good. Y'all know Louis is not Hispanic. He's Latin. I did not know that. That man's last name is of Latin descent, and then somebody online was like, allegedly Louis is Puerto Rican, Dominican, and Colombian. I kind of saw it with the daddy, and I saw it in the sister with the darker hair. She gave ethnic. I said that makes sense when Teresa was like, I've never not dated like a Latin. She was like, I've never did not have dated a Latin, not a Latin man, but an Italian man. And I was like, Louis Latin. Okay. He a white Latino, but he Latin. I said, okay, this is new. So they sit down, they have this family dinner, and I thought it was really nice. I'm not even gonna lie. I thought it was to see the juxtapose where you got Melissa and Joe sitting on the couch talking about Teresa and how much they think she was being fake, and then to see Teresa sitting at a dinner table full of Louis' family and her family and just celebrating. It's like I felt happy for her. She seemed genuinely in a good place, and she seems like she wants to. Teresa does seem like she wants to be different. So hopefully she can be. With this, we find out that Louis' mom is a therapist. So in his family, they really do talk about their feelings with each other. And she seems like she's like open to doing that. So I thought the dinner scene was actually like really nice, even when she said this family like fills the void in my heart, because I do believe Teresa misses having her mom and her dad around, or having those big extravagant like dinners that they used to have in the early season and really like drive home the whole family thing. So I did think it was nice that she had that moment with Louis and his family. So we move on. All right, y'all. So the 80s party, it gave very much 8th grade birthday party, but sometimes that could be a mood. The only thing that bothered me about this was the food. Like, they did not have the food on warmers. They had the tin pans, but they just had the tin pans on the table. Like, they weren't in the little, I guess the harness things with the candle blowing the flame to heat the food. I was like, I know that chicken cold. I know that chicken is cold. Or if you got the chicken, you had to get it the moment they peeled back the aluminum so you could eat it. So I was just like, girl, do better, Melissa. Do better. So everyone gets there. Melissa and Joe, I didn't like what Joe had on, but I thought Melissa looked cute. She had on like kind of like, it reminded me of like a Barbie, like the Barbie like aerobics kind of outfit. She had on like the neon leotard with the, what do they call those? Like those socks? They're not really socks. They're like the knee-high little things that you just push your feet through. I don't know what they call, y'all. I cannot think about what they're called. But she looked nice. We end up seeing Marge Sr., Margaret, Joe, and then Margaret's like business partner with the thick accent. I didn't really like what Margaret had on, but I did think Margaret's confessional out of everyone's confessional is the nicest confessional. Like, she looked very pulled together. That pink looks really good on her skin. Her hair looks nice. Everybody else kind of looked basic. Like real basic, real pedestrian. And I said, y'all normally be giving us really nice looks in the confessionals. This won't giving. Was not given. So, everyone gets there. We see Frank and his girlfriend, Brittany. Frank is 58. Brittany is 33. I don't really mind that age gap. And I know some people were like, that's too big. I didn't think it was that, because I'm like, okay, it'd be different if it said 23. Then I'd have had an issue. 33, I feel like you have life experiences. And I know some of my friends who are like in their 30s and their boyfriends or their husbands are like 10 years older than them, or maybe even more. So I was just like, maybe that's not that bad, you know. My friends seem to be doing okay. So I said, so, we see Brittany. Dolores pulls in. She has on her outfit. She brought her own skates. So I guess Dolores really know how to skate. So she was excited. We found out Paulie couldn't be there because, you know, he tested positive. So he couldn't come. Who else? See them. Oh, we then meet Jennifer. This is the new Jennifer. She is Margaret's friend. Her and Margaret have been friends for a hot minute. I think I'm going to like her. I think she blended in well with the cast, and she did not seem like scared of the cameras. And it also didn't seem like she had camera balls. It felt like she was like very comfortable in her own element, and she was talking to everybody. She seems cool. Everyone's still piling in. We see Joe and Teresa and Louis get there. Louis didn't dress up. Joe made a comment about it. Teresa comes in her windbreaker, but she kind of felt some type of way because she was like, Joe wasn't really paying attention to her. Like, she said hi to him, but he really wasn't giving her the time of day. And she was like, well, why invite me if you didn't want to talk to me? Which I can understand that. But I feel like where they're at in their relationship, no matter what anyone would have said to each other, somebody would have taken it the wrong way. We then see Louis and Teresa go greet everybody and say, hey, what's up? Just being cordial with the people. We then see, I think it's Danielle. So now we have Danielle, the other friend, came in there with the blonde hair. She's a blonde with the crimp hair. She's Teresa's friend. And what we find out is that Danielle's stepmom used to be married to Caroline Manzo's brother. So they still all know each other because of that whole situation. So she blended in well too. Like, it didn't seem like she was being extra. She seemed like she was really having a good time. Everyone seemed comfortable, and she starts to talk to everyone. All of a sudden, we then have Bill and Jennifer get there, and things kind of take a turn. So Melissa and Jennifer talk, and Jennifer's pretty much like, okay, what's up? She tries to say hi to everyone. Dolores is kind of like, hey girl, but not really engaging with her. And then Jennifer just starts avoiding Dolores the whole time. Every time Dolores tries to walk up when they're having a group conversation, Jennifer hobbles the other way. And Melissa's like, what's going on with y'all? And Jennifer's like, basically, she said some really messed up things to me, things I would never even say to an enemy. I said, girl, you're lying. Because the way you and Margaret be arguing, you're lying. You're lying. She said, I would never say that to a friend. I said, girl, lies. The lies you tell, Jennifer. I like you. But girl, you're lying. Lies. So every time, like I said, Jennifer is around Dolores, she walks away. Dolores starts to get irritated because she's like, that's very high school. Like, if you want to have a conversation, let's have a conversation, and stop telling everyone around me that you have an issue with me. Come to me and let me know that you have an issue. So we then meet the final girl, which is Rachel. Rachel is Melissa's friend. We find out that Rachel's son and I think Melissa's oldest son, the middle child, are best friends. They play on the same football team together. We also find out that Frank's girlfriend, Brittany, and Rachel are friends, or they used to be friends, because Frank used to train Brittany and Rachel for bodybuilding competitions. So I like the fact that all these new people are connected in some way, and it's like this microcosm or of people in New Jersey. It's just not them throwing in. Because did y'all not see Tiki and Tracy there? It was we didn't even pay attention to them. I saw Tiki on the roller rink, and I think they panned to Tracy, and I was like, oh, okay, they there. But these three ladies make sense. They make sense because they all are connected to these people in real ways. These people are actually friends with each other. Jackie and Evan were there. Y'all know Jackie got demoted to friend of. So we got 4 friends of. Now, I heard 2 different things. Some people have told me that Jackie asked to be demoted to friend of so she could focus on getting healthier with her eating disorder. But then I also saw some people said, no, Jackie didn't test well with people after a while, and they demoted her. Either way, the girl is still on the show. She's just a friend of and ain't getting too much spotlight. We have a scene of Frank and Dolores and all the guys sitting down talking about Pauly, and Joey saying, we're so happy for you. They also were but Dolores and Frank were trying to encourage Joe to talk to Teresa. But Joe was she drew a line in the sand, and Joe was asking Frank and Dolores, didn't she at the didn't she pretty much do that? And they were kind of yeah, she kind of did. Yeah, she kind of did. But, I guess they were hoping that they could make amends and find a better way to communicate, but we see that ain't happening. That is not happening no time soon. So after Rachel gets there, we see Dolores pull all the ladies together, and she pretty much asks them hey, I want to use your husbands to be in a charity calendar, to benefit the same foundation that they used last season for the baseball tournament. Not tournament, but for the baseball game. Now, what was funny, before Dolores could ask the ladies this, Jennifer was about to walk away again. And then Dolores was like, don't walk away. I'm trying to ask you a question. So Jennifer comes back, she's standing there, and once Dolores asks, like, can I use you guys as husband in the calendar for a charity event, Jennifer's like, that's all you had to ask us? That's all you had to ask us. Pretty much feeling like, girl, you're not going to say nothing else. You're not going to apologize. You're not going to, like, ask me what's going on. Like, really, Dolores? She was like, okay, I'm going to talk to Bill. And so Jennifer's whole thing is like, you can use my husband for a calendar, but you don't want to talk to me about our friendship. So she walks over to Bill, and, like, that's where the episode really ends. So then we move, well, before, not the episode, I said episode, we still got more to go. My bad, y'all. So we then, before the scene ends, we have Teresa going up to Margaret and pretty much asking Margaret, would you come over so we can smooth things over and have a conversation? Margaret is shook. Margaret is like, girl, why you want to ask me over to bury me in the yard? What's going on, girl? What is this? Because this is not the Teresa I know. That's not the tree I know. And before all of this even happened between Teresa and Margaret, when Margaret got to the party, it was just her and Melissa, and they were both commiserating about how Teresa has treated them throughout the season, mainly since last season. Margaret feels like Teresa was lashing out at her, and she also feels like Teresa has misplaced anger with Melissa and Joe. Margaret also ends up spraining her wrist. She said it was broken, but the way that brace, she had on a brace, she didn't have on a cast. And normally when things are broken, they cast it so you can't move. That gave very much sprained energy. Either way, the lady hurt herself. But I knew Margaret was going to hurt herself when she fell. Like, normally when you fall, you're supposed to just fall. And I know that's a hard thing to do because your body goes into, like, protecting itself to, like, grab onto things. But I've always been taught, like, if you're gonna fall and you know for a fact that you can't effectively, like, catch yourself from really hitting the ground, you're just supposed to take it, because stopping yourself makes it worse. And we see that because Margaret messed up that wrist. But yeah, Margaret said yes, that she would talk to Teresa at her home and that they can smooth things over. And that's when that scene ended. All right, y'all. So before we have to sit down with Teresa and Margaret, we have a scene with Danielle. So Danielle is Teresa's friend, and she's the blonde one. She seems like she's gonna be a fun time. Like, she's gonna be with it. She's gonna be with the drama. But we meet her husband. She called him Adonis. He handsome. I don't see no, he handsome, but he seems cool. We see her 2 kids. She has a son and a daughter. I like her daughter though. Not to say I don't like the son, but her daughter's energy, I like it. When she flicked off the camera, and then when Danielle was waking her up, the agitation in that little girl's voice was like, girl, why are you in here? And then when she was trying to tell her what to wear, and she was like, I wear what I want. I said, come on, little girl. Don't even remember her name, but I like her. So before Margaret and Joe get to Teresa's house, Teresa's talking to Louie about how she really wants to, she wants to be better and she wants to be different. She's like, she doesn't want to be reactionary like her father. She said, when my dad thought he was right, you couldn't tell him nothing. He would bang on tables. He would raise his voice. Sometimes he would throw stuff. Like, he used to throw rolls at me, and she laughed. But the way she laughed, I said, oh, your daddy sounds like he was a menace. I'm sorry, lady. And my thing is, like, I hope Teresa is really in therapy and she's continued to go to therapy, because I'm like, there's some childhood trauma there that she probably definitely needs to unlock, because history is repeating itself. You see, like, that Teresa's dad and Rosie and Caroline's mom weren't cool. They stopped communicating. Now you have Joe and Teresa pretty much doing the same thing, but they're forced to communicate because they were on this show. So I'm just kind of like, history is repeating itself, and maybe y'all really need to sit down and, like, well, mainly I would say, talking about Teresa, really go to therapy and work through what really happened, because I don't even think Teresa worked through the fact that she went to jail for her husband. She says she has, but I don't think she has. So Margaret and Joe finally get to the house and they sit down. Now, I feel like Margaret was doing too much in the beginning, when she did not. So a lot of people felt like Margaret was calling Teresa's daughters the B words, but I don't think she was. I think she was just trying to be funny. like, just trying to be funny. And it's just like, girl, y'all aren't at that place so you could joke like that. That it came off kind of like, ooh, girl. Because Margaret was talking about, no, Teresa was talking about how, like, she can't believe that she has these dogs because Louis, I guess, had 4 dogs before the girls move in. And then Louis said, I can't believe that I moved into a house with, like, so many women. And Margaret said, what you mean so many? And then she said the B word. And Teresa looked at her and I was like, oh girl, don't start off like this. So they start the conversation. And Teresa is just sitting there and she's just kind of like, I don't really like how things left off with us, but I just feel like you pushed me to that point. And in my opinion, Margaret did. Now, do I think Teresa was right for what she did? No. Teresa was palming them glasses like she was Kuma with the paw fruit. Shout out to One Piece. Just hitting them. Like, I mean, she was whop, whop. She was hitting them glasses. But the thing that bothers me with Margaret is Margaret tries to act like she's so self-righteous when we saw you throw a wine, like a glass of wine in Danielle's face. We also saw you throw water on that lady. And then we saw you shove her husband in the pool. So it's like, Margaret, for you to be like, I'm anxious around Teresa, Danielle and other people could say the same thing with you after the behavior that you have demonstrated. That's the thing that just bothers me about this whole situation. Now, I don't think Teresa should have did that. Like, you too grown to be palming drinks at somebody, even though I laugh, because it was whop, whop, whop. But I understand why Teresa did it and why she got so frustrated. It's because she asked Margaret repeatedly. And that's the thing that Margaret has not owned. Because Margaret's like, well, I was trying to protect you. You weren't. In the beginning, I could give Margaret the benefit of the doubt that, like, yeah, like, we were trying to protect you. Like, we really wanted to know what he was about, especially with that video being on the blogs and stuff like that. I could see that. But once Teresa has told you several times, like, let it go, she's creating a boundary with you and you continuously stepped over it. Now, while they're having this conversation, Teresa was over talking Margaret, and I was glad that Louis was like, listen to her, like, you over talking to her, let her speak. And I thought it was nice. All of a sudden, her and Margaret start to like really like have a moment where Teresa pretty much apologized, which I was like, girl, she said she was sorry, and I was shook. And Margaret asked Teresa, are you apologizing to me because that's what Louis wants you to do? Are you apologizing to me because that's what you want to do? And she was like, no, I'm coming to raw as a cucumber. And everyone was like, girl, what? She was like, that's not the saying. And they were like, no, it's cool as a cucumber. And even if that was the way she was trying to use it, it still wouldn't make sense. But Teresa was pretty much like, no, I'm apologizing because I want to. And I think she really does want to have this moment with, I do think Teresa is sorry. And I think the one thing that keeps Margaret and Teresa like in this space of trying to be cool is because of that gesture that Margaret did in 2017 when they flashed back that one season where Margaret brung that wreath that they could put in the water to do a memorial or in remembrance to Teresa's mom after she passed. And I think that has always like really stuck with Teresa when it came to Margaret. So, and I think Margaret feels the same way. So I think that is why Teresa wanted to be different with Margaret and even gave her a genuine apology because of that one gesture. But they kind of talk, and then Margaret brings up Joe and Melissa. And she was like, do you feel like it's displaced anger with them? And she's like, no. And she brings up the text messages. And Louis ends up calling Melissa insecure, even though he already called Joe insecure for not coming over for the dinner after he like reached out to them. But Teresa's whole thing is like, I sent that text message to her and then she ran out to y'all and read the text message. And she was like, that was the test to me to see if she really had my back. And Margaret was like, but she does. And Teresa's like, she doesn't. Like, show me that you love me. And my thing about it is like, what Melissa did was wrong. And it did show that like, you don't care about this relationship either, because there was no need for you to run back to all those people that already had an issue with Teresa and was feeling some type of way about Louis, to read off her text message asking y'all to stop talking about Louis, and then for you to do it. Because when Melissa did it, it was very snarky and it was snide and it was to make fun of them and to be like, y'all, Look what she just texted me. That was the energy. Like, look at what this heifer just texted me, y'all. And then you read it out. You read it out. So I was just like, yeah, you were wrong for that, girl. Like, and if I was Teresa, I would look at her differently. Now, my thing is, I don't like when people are like, I need to test someone. I am not in high school. I am not, we're not in a class together. You are not the professor and I am not the student. If you got to test people, then the reason that you have to test them, you should already know that that's a person that's not for you. People, all them people that I got to test, girl, get out my face. We don't need to be friends if you got to test me. Just get out my face. Get out my face. So we move over to the actual photo shoot. They're having the photo shoot at Margaret's house. You know what? I'm glad Margaret's house is done. There's no more seasons of that house being in renovation. Still think some parts of the house is ugly, but all in all, it's done. So everybody shows up. Rachel brings her husband, who she was like, he's a model. I said, girl, no. But she said he also was like in a scene from Law and Order. I said, okay. I said, was he, oh, Leah. Oh, I was about to say something so rude. Oh, that was horrible. But everybody gets there. We see Paulie shows up. Dolores is so excited for everyone to meet him and show him off. We then see Margaret run over to Joe and Melissa and pretty much reiterate what Teresa and Louis said about them while they were having that conversation in their backyard. And I said, Margaret, what was the need to do that? What was the need to do that, girl? You could have kept that to yourself. And then all of a sudden, Joe and Melissa get upset. Melissa was like, I'm insecure after I was trying to protect you and your boyfriend. Girl, you weren't. You did what you did, exposing that text message to make fun of the lady. Y'all were there to shade her, and she caught the shade, and you just mad she caught the shade and threw it back. Now, Louis' favorite word is insecure because she kept using it, and I said, you're going to have to come up with a better word. Increase your vocabulary, bro. Then Joe was like, we had open arms. We came open arms to them. I said, you kind of did. You did. I'll give you that. But now y'all not that. I didn't understand why Margaret did that. So everyone's at Margaret's house. It's a lot of people, so y'all bear with me in this next part when we talking about all these conversations going on at once. So, like I said, everyone is at Margaret's house, and all the men are taking pictures. Bill and Jennifer show up, and Dolores just greets Bill. She doesn't acknowledge Jennifer's presence there. Jennifer takes offense. Dolores' whole thing is like, well, girl, you walked away from me 2 times at the roller ring. I felt like, this is what we own, so I'm going to give it to you. So Jennifer is like, what, like just taken aback and really hurt by this. So everyone's taking pictures. I think Louis was a yoga instructor. Bill obviously was the love doctor. Evan was there. He took pictures. Everybody was there. I kind of cringed, so I really fast forward through this part. So we see Danielle go over to Jennifer and ask her, like, have you talked to Dolores? And like, are you and Dolores okay? And Jennifer was like, no, she didn't even acknowledge my presence. And then Danielle is like, well, just go over there. She was like, girl, I came. That should be enough. Like, she should be okay with it. I came, so we should be good. And we not. So what is this? So all of a sudden, you see a crowd of people come. So I think it was all the new girls. It was Danielle, Rachel, Jennifer, and Danielle, Rachel, Jennifer, and Jennifer Aiden talking about it. And they're like, what's going on? And she was like, well, Jennifer's like, Dolores really wasn't a good friend to me. She pretty much dismissed my feelings. And she was like, last year, Margaret pretty much like ousted that my husband had an affair, and she felt like I was being a hypocrite. And then Rachel was like, you were being a hypocrite. You were coming at her about being a cheater, and you're with a cheater. And Jennifer's like, explain how. How was I coming at her? Explain it. And then Rachel didn't have a rebuttal, and then Jennifer was like, girl, be quiet then, because you wasn't there. And so then Rachel is kind of like taking it back, like, okay, like, girl, I struck a nerve. And I said, Rachel, if you was going to be a part of this conversation, be a part of this conversation. Either give it back or be on mute, sis. Because everybody else, so like, the other Jennifer was trying to chime in and be like, well, I can see where both of y'all are coming from. And even Danielle was being quiet. And then Jennifer was like, well, I've had, like, she was like, I've had Dolores's back. She said when she was with David for 5 years, and she was like, I don't know what's going on. And she was like, I never told her, if a guy has been with you for 5 years and he don't tell you he wants you in 5 years, then he don't want you. The answer is no, y'all aren't moving forward. But I never said that, did I? And then the other Jennifer was like, well, you're saying it now. And she was like, yeah, after I'm hurt. Like, bro, I've been there for that girl and she ain't really been there for me. And they were like, and then Jennifer is like, I just need Dolores to show me that she cares. And then the other Jennifer was like, well, go over there and tell her that. Go be vulnerable. And then Jennifer was about to cry because she was like, no, because every time Jennifer is vulnerable with Dolores cuts her down and be like, girl, cut all that crying. So it's like, you don't feel safe being vulnerable with that person. It is what it is at that point. So they disperse. You then see Rachel go over to Dolores and tell Dolores what Jennifer said. And Dolores is like, see, she be talking about me around me, and she don't ever say nothing. So then you see Melissa and Jennifer having a conversation, and Melissa's like, y'all haven't talked? And Jennifer's like, no, I just feel like she was being a bad friend, and she said things to me that I wouldn't say to anybody that's my friend. So then Dolores notices that they're talking about her, and she's like, are they talking about me? And Rachel's like, yeah. She was like, okay, girl, I'm done. So she walks over to Dolores. Dolores walks over to Jennifer and she's like, can we talk? And Jennifer's like, okay. So now there's this other new huddle. Y'all, there's so many people in this house. It is too many people in this house. Now there's a new huddle where you have Jackie, Rachel, and Melissa. And Melissa's like, what's going on? And Rachel is like, I think it's just a miscommunication and that they just need to figure out. Jackie tries to butt in and be like, I'm sorry, like you're having this conversation, or we're having this conversation, and I feel like you haven't looked at me once. Like I'm not catching up on these, like that's just common courtesy. And Rachel looked at Jackie like, girl, what? You could tell that Rachel was overwhelmed with all the stuff that was going on, because it was a lot going on. You got the men taking the pictures, getting oiled up. Then you got everyone talking, like all these cameras, flashing lights. And I was like, Jackie, girl. And my thing is, Jackie should be concerned. I'm not even gonna lie. Y'all know I don't really see it for Jackie like that. But I do feel like Jackie shouldn't have been demoted after sharing so much about her eating disorder. But I feel like Jackie might get phased out, y'all. Because even in this first episode, the three newbies were working. Like, you saw them actively engaging with people that I forgot that Jackie was there low-key. Until she said something to Rachel. And I was like, yeah, Jackie, you gonna have to start like inserting yourself to prove that like you should still be here. Cause they might get rid of you, sis. They might. After you share so much, that would be foul. But like they might, especially if these three show up and show out. So we then see the conversation between Dolores and Jennifer. And they started off, and I'm going to try my best to reiterate it because a lot was going on, but pretty much Dolores doesn't feel like she was a bad friend to Jennifer. She feels like she had Jennifer's back, and that Jennifer just doesn't understand what a good friend is, because she was like, she had her back. Jennifer's whole thing is like, no, girl, you jumped ship. You pretty much had everybody else's back against me. And I you called me a see you next Tuesday after I tried to tell you how I was feeling. And I think Dolores was like, well, maybe we're not friends, or we're not friends. And then Jennifer was like, okay, everybody heard that. We're not friends. I'm good. And she was like, because I'm nice and you're not. I'm good. So Jennifer like hobbles up the steps with her boot on, and her and Dolores are arguing back and forth. And everybody's saying that. She was like, everybody, you hear it? She said me and her aren't friends. We're good. So then they start going back and forth. And Bill is trying to calm Jennifer down, telling her to like, chill out. And Jennifer's like, stop telling me to chill out. Then Polly comes in and she was like, I'm not about to. Then Dolores was like, I'm not about to argue with that. I feel bad for Bill that he has to go home with that. I hate when they do that. I really do. I hate the way they do Jennifer as it pertains to Bill. Like every season, it's always like, I feel bad that Bill has to go home to Jennifer. I feel bad that Bill has to deal with that. Like, oh my God, it's so horrible. When I'm like, are we really doing this? Because majority of if not all the men on here are lucky to even have any of these women be in their presence. Because what the hell? Most of them are like you know what? I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna be nice. Because we're not gonna do that. But that irritates me that they try to act like Jennifer's some burden to Bill when I'm like, most of the men on this cast are a burden to their wives. So what are we talking? Like that type of irritates me. It really does. It's very demeaning, and I can't. And they only do it to Jennifer. They only do it to Jennifer, and I'm just like, y'all are gross to me. They're gross to me when they do that. So they're arguing back and forth, and Jennifer and Bill are leaving, and she's like, and Teresa's like at the door. She's like, y'all are leaving, and Jennifer's like, yeah, I'm leaving. Like, your friend's being to see you next Tuesday. And they're like, what? And she's like, that's what I learned from you, Merriam-Webster. And then Dolores is like, well, if you keep watching, you can keep learning. And Jennifer was like, all I can learn from you is how to be a bad friend and a B. I said, oh. Dolores couldn't keep up with Jennifer. Dolores could not keep up with Jennifer was eating Dolores up. And so she walked out the door. She was like, what I look like arguing with a handbag? I said, she did not call Dolores a handbag. She did not call that lady a handbag. Because I said, oh, now I'm going to look at that lady like she got leathery skin. I screamed. I said, not a handbag. I said, oh, that was a good one, Jennifer. That was a good one. And then she kissed out the window. Oh, they can't. That's why they don't like Jennifer. Because they can't take Jennifer's mouth. And every time they come at Jennifer, Jennifer gets them. And this is my thing when it comes to Jennifer and Dolores. We know Margaret and Dolores are like really close. Like, Margaret and Dolores seem to have a closer relationship out of the show compared to Teresa and Dolores. Like, Margaret and Dolores seem to be really like this, like really tight friends, like locked in. You know, they ain't switching up on each other. If we locked in, ain't no switching. Hey, they seem to really be down for each other. But the issue is that I have with Dolores is, if you were going to play neutral, then you should have been neutral. You gave very much Karen Huger tease where I was neutral, but it was clearly that you picked a side. And you did pick Margaret's side. So stand in the fact that you did pick Margaret's side. There's two, it's totally different. It's one thing to be someone's friend and see why the other person felt what they did was justified. And you even saying like, yeah, it was justified, but still riding and standing beside your friend versus what Dolores did, which was at one point she just was like, I'm done, I'm good. You did jump ship on her, and then when she tried to explain to you how she felt, you basically demeaned her and called her a see you next Tuesday. So if she feels like you're a bad friend, then lady, you probably are a bad friend, and it is what it is. But I thought the episode was good. It was entertaining. I would give it a B+, mainly because of what happened at the end. Because when Jennifer said, oh, Dolores looks like an old leather handbag. I screamed. And then when she was like, that's what I learned from you, babes. Shenanigans. I love it. But yeah, y'all, that is it. That is all. Remember to be bravely authentic and hop down in them comments below. Deuces.